This week on Front and Fire, pnpm, which is hard to pronounce, is tightening its security stance. We're going to talk about whether the AI bill is coming due, and Remix v3 is back in the news. It's Front and Fire. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to Front End Fire, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. It is episode 143, and I wore my Firefox hoodie for the occasion, if for those of you on YouTube. But I am TJ Vatol. I have Jack Harrington with me.
Hello.
And Paige Nietringhaus.
Hey everybody.
We've been doing this almost 3 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Time flies.
It does. It really does. When you're having fun with good friends.
I always look forward to this, and I also think we're going to look back at this as we did this at such an opportune time, because we were doing this before the AI revolution, and we've got to kind of cataloged our journey through it, and I just think that's fun to look back at.
Absolutely.
History.
But we have some good stuff today. We got some security stuff, as always. We've got some AI discussion and some framework news. We're hitting all our common topics here today, so why don't we do this? All right, Paige, you want to kick us off? I know, I think we're talking AI pricing.
Of course we are. So yeah, the AI price hikes are in effect. We have talked about this a little bit when AI first started coming out and getting popular. People were using LLMs. They were using ChatGPT. They were using Anthropic's Claude Code. They were using, you name the LLM, they were using it. And we knew that they were burning more money than they were making by a significant amount. These companies needed adoption. They needed users, and nobody was really willing to give them the amount that they were spending on compute, on infrastructure. Money. Exactly. And now the price is coming due. So if you haven't been following the news as closely, there was a recent article from Uber that their CTO said that Claude Code has already maxed out their entire 2026 AI budget in the first 4 months of the year. So they've rolled it out. Yeah, they rolled it out to 5,000 Uber employees, and everybody really started using it, and they just blew through their entire budget in the first third of the year.
Well, that's what happens when you tell people that they're going to be like max tokened and you're going to have a leaderboard and crap like that.
Exactly.
People are going to go for it,
Right. And not only that, Anthropic has changed its plan offerings recently. So if you have signed up for Claude Code or tried to sign up for one of the Anthropic plans in the last maybe month or so, you might not have had access to Claude Code. They tried removing that from the cheapest subscription plan that they had, so that you had to go up to the $100 or more plan to be able to get access to Claude Code. And they've also changed it from a single per employee fee for enterprise plans, where they've had access to code, co-work, and chat, to a usage-based plan. So even the enterprise plans are now paying per usage instead of flat rates. And GitHub Copilot recently announced that beginning, I think, June 1st, they too are going to a usage-based subscription model. And it's going to cost you a lot more for particular models if you're running like the latest version of Copilot or ChatGPT, the latest versions of Anthropic, so Sonnet and Opus and things like that. So yeah, prepare to pay a lot more, and possibly employers are going to start thinking that maybe spending all of their money on AI is not necessarily the best use of their dollars.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who knows?
Think the cutting back on the subscription plans makes some sense, because that, for the longest time, that was the cheapest way to do things, because if you could get into Claude's Max plan, you could get a lot done. And it was, if you're using it, if you're making use of it, which with these tools, a lot of people do. A lot of people use the crap out of them. And it used to be the subscription was the way to get your best bang for your buck, essentially. And I think the Copilots of the world and et cetera are starting to look at their bottom line and seeing this also, and starting to switch more to usage based. And then once it's usage based, the heavy users are going to have a pretty big bill. At least that's what I've been seeing.
Sure. I mean, we all started out just kind of toying with them and tinkering and seeing how far they could go and how off the rails they would get. But now people are running multiple agents in parallel, doing different things on their or on their computers. I know that at my work in particular, every new person who has been hired on, like that's the first thing in the IT channel that we have, is they're asking for access to the company's Anthropic account.
Yeah.
And this is
absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
this is
100%.
engineers. This is our business development and salespeople. Like they're all using Cowork and Claude Desktop for stuff. It is really ubiquitous across departments at this point.
Yeah. When I first joined Netlify, it was a thing where the policy was that it came out of your learning budget. You could pay for AI tooling with that budget. That budget is, not a ton. And, my first question was like, okay, so can we get it on the corporate account? How do we do this? And yeah, we've been kind of working. It's something where it's a work in progress. Like companies are trying to figure out how to actually budget this thing. And the funny thing is that some of the studies have come out saying that this is either a net negative or basically neutral or maybe slightly positive. There are some like outliers, like POC code and stuff like that does really, really well. But if you're not working on that daily, you're probably not getting as much benefit as you think you are out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can say I think there's unquestionably productivity gains you get from using these tools, but it gets harder. Everything gets harder at scale. So because at Blues, we're seeing the same thing where almost everybody is doing something with Claude at this point. It's not constricted to engineering. Our marketing team is using it. Our sales team is using it. And are those people getting value out of the tool? I mean, they probably are, but are they getting enough for the bill associated with it? I don't think anybody really knows the answer to those questions quite yet. And I think the other thing with this is that sometimes the bill, I mean, these tools do a pretty good job hiding what the bill is. So as an individual user, lots of times you have to go searching for how much money you're actually spending. Like if we hit this the other day where we were toying around because Claude and its max plans has this ability to use a context window of 1 million tokens. And if you turn that on, and we ran an experiment because we wanted to try something very specific with putting together a project, and we turned that guy on and we used it for a thing. And the thing that we did, now to be fair, this ran for a decent amount of time, but we looked up the bill afterwards, and it's like we just spent $70 running this, like just for this one thing. And like the thing is, though, we would have never known if we wouldn't have went looking for that. And lots of times too, it's not you as an individual user; it's the admin of the system that is privy to all this usage data. It's not like Claude is just chucking out a receipt for you, or Codex is chucking out a receipt to you. You have to almost go looking for it.
Yeah, I have no idea how much I've actually spent with my corporate Claude instance or ChatGPT, because I use that with Copilot a lot for PR reviews. And that thing is just cranking through code, like looking at diffs and looking at GitHub and looking at the PR code. I have no idea. I can see how many tokens I've used in a session, but I don't know how that equates to money, or I'm not taking the time.
I think eventually, especially tools that enterprises are going to use, there'll be more visibility into this sort of thing. There'll be more guidelines, like you'll get quotas for the day. I see that coming too, especially like the Copilots of the world that get mass distributed. Like you have so much usage as an employee, and administrators get to divvy that up and work with that. I see that becoming a bigger deal over time. I just think all of this is so new that we're just making it up as we go.
And it's not something normal, like your non-data scientist software engineers have ever had to really deal with. It's like we pay up front maybe a monthly fee, a flat fee for Linear or Jira or whatever, right? The tools
Salesforce,
have a fixed sum. And it's only really data scientists that are doing like, oh, I'm going to go and buy a certain amount of demand computing to go and crunch these numbers or whatever. And this is not something that we end up doing, you know? So it's a new department that's got this new model for spending money. And none of us are trained in like, okay, is $70 worth the squeeze here for this? I don't know. Maybe it is.
Right. How
Maybe
long
it
would it
isn't.
take me otherwise? Or could I even figure this out otherwise in
Well,
less than $70 worth of time?
that's the thing that makes this so fascinating. So our $70 experiment, the output of that thing was great. And then we got to talking about it. It's like, well, if we contracted out somebody to do that hour or two of work, we would have paid them more than $70 for that result. So was it worth it? I mean, but then the question comes, well, if we would have used something with less context or a less powerful model, would that result have been good enough? And I don't know the answer to that. That's what makes this just really interesting, because we're still
Yeah.
figuring all of this out.
And well, if we impose limits or quotas, you only have X amount of tokens to do during today. If I blow through that in my first 2 hours of work, what am I going to do? Am I just going to sit there and look busy, like read articles and fiddle around until I can go again?
Well,
I
that's
do
kind of
know-
another thing, which that what is work nowadays?
Yeah,
You know?
the podcast is now 3 hours if we open that
Yeah.
can of worms.
Oh my god! And that's and more psychologically, right? If you're used to spending, 5 to 6, 7, whatever hours a day coding, and now you're like, just hanging out and noodling on a guitar, watching an agent go, like, doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're, I don't know, like you're not being productive, kind of.
I do want to, at some point, we need to do a deep dive into this, just the psychology of working as a software developer now, because
Yeah.
it used to be, I would structure my day to try to get into like a flow state to work on certain things. Like that's how I'd organize my day. Like I'd get some of the monotonous stuff done, and it's like, okay, I need to deeply focus on this for like 2 to 3 hours. And I'd have like 2 blocks of that throughout my day. But in an AI world, I can't get into that zone. It just doesn't exist. And so in a way, I'm getting more done, but my day just feels so weird now. And I do get distracted more often than I used to. Because of course I do, because there's just blocks where AI is doing something and I'm not like wrangling 6 different agents. Like I don't have like this crazy multitasking scheme going on. There's sometimes where I want to wait for this to finish and then my brain wanders, and it's just more jagged. I don't know.
Yeah, it's disjointed in a way that it didn't used to be because it required that much focus, and now it doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time talking about this. And as an industry, I think we probably should, at some point, because we have a massive change that we're trying to metabolize in an incredibly short period of time.
I do. Yeah. And I'd be curious to hear other people's stances as well on this. So if you're a part of our Discord, we'd love to hear, what's the situation like at your work? Do you have free reign for AI usage? Do you have constrict limits that your company has imposed? How does all that work? I'd love to hear just feedback from others on how everybody else is going through this.
Yeah, and what's your stance on it? Because I know some developers who are like, no, hard no, full stop, no AI. I want to be in the code base. I want to understand it deeply. I want to look at every line and change it myself. And I can understand that. Sure, we just talked about the drawbacks of that, where we don't feel like we know our code as well. We don't feel like we're being as productive. We don't get into that flow state. But at the same time, everybody around us is flying forward. They're all opening multiple PRs. They're closing, issues. They're finding edge cases and bugs. And it's like, if you don't get on that train and be as productive, are you still going to have a job, or is somebody going to impose on you that you better get with the program?
I saw the flip side of that is I saw, and I shared with you two, a commit graph for the OpenClaw project, and they have like over 10,000 commits to main a month. Whatever is going on out there is just complete and utter chaos. Like if you go to the OpenClaw GitHub project and you just look at the commits, there's just this stream of stuff going in. So clearly they have these people or agents pushing straight to main. It's just like complete.
Yeah, that's
I don't know how.
crazy.
Chaos.
I don't know
A
how the
that's
project
got
is
that
still.
kind of like security
Lack
level
of security.
or lack of security. Yeah.
I don't know, but like to me,
Okay,
that's
now
the
I'm
flip
going
end.
to
So
turn off OpenClaw now.
yeah,
I don't even know if it's updated itself recently, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to go into my OpenClaw. And be
Yeah.
like, hey, don't update.
but
We're
that's
good.
like I almost in a way though I appreciate it for just the sheer experimentation of it. Like what does a project look like if you just turn off everything and just let her rip, just let the agents go to town.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Thinking about that now, I'm like, oh my
because
god.
we know nobody's reviewing that who's a human. Not at that rate.
No. There's no way a human is. It's just different agents. The roadblocks are other agents, and then
It's so funny because like I'm of such mixed minds about this. It's like, on the work front, there's all kinds of problems around that, like is this work or whatever. But then on the other hand, I was experimenting with WebMCP again, and I was like, oh, hey, I've got this thing where where you create parameterized models for 3D printing. It's like, oh, I've got a box and it's this big. Make me a box. I need the dimensions to be this, and I was literally just talking with Claude while we were sitting around watching Outlander. I'm like, hey, whatever, and it's like, you want me to build this for you? I'm like, yeah, sure. Oh, okay, go. And then like I wake up the next morning and it works. Like it like just works. And I'm like chatting with my model and being like, okay, set the width to this, blah 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 blah, and it just works. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, why don't we pivot to some good old fashioned front end news? Jack, I hear Remix is back. It's back
Remix
in the
V3
news.
is back. Because there's this whole difference. I guess hold on. Remix is Remix V3 only, and now Remix, what we call Remix originally is now like React Router 7 or whatever.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
like
Remix
the
V3
Angular
is just-
JS, Angular.
Oh yeah, very much like that. In fact, even way worse than that, because like it's an entirely different system. It's not React at all, and it's not even close. It's not even trying to be React. In fact, it's like expressly against like React's number one feature, which is like automatic data binding. When you change a value, it automatically updates the DOM.
Oh,
They don't do that no more. Like you gotta do that yourself. Okay. Anyway, so they have now gone for Remix V3 beta, and I'll read a little bit from the announcement. This is still pre-release software. We do not recommend using it for production yet, but it is ready for experiments, demos, prototypes, and feedback from curious builders. The beta preview is a real step in the direction one Remix umbrella for. Are you ready for me? Routes, request handlers, middleware, sessions, auth, forms, uploads, assets, data, UI, tests, and more. And more. Like it's like the Ginsu knife of Node.js frameworks, the Ruby on Rails. And the idea is that you have it's one package, and you get auth when you get forms. Okay. Uploads like a data blob storage management system built in. It can talk to like a bunch of different stuff. Assets, similar sort of thing. Data, which is its own ORM layer, own bespoke ORM layer. It's got its own bespoke UI layer with its own bespoke components, and they also created a testing framework, which looks like your describe, expect, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, single, like it's their implementation. All this stuff is at kind of like the 0.1 level, and I was playing around with it yesterday. If you start up their project and just create a new template project, like a lot of this stuff is kind of unfulfilled. Like auth is literally a screen that says like, okay, here is where you'd implement auth. And you're like, that's not auth, baby. But they do have like a bookstore demo that actually shows all this stuff. So that's kind of cool. You can dig in there. It's interesting because just kind of on its face, it so flies in the opposite direction of where Node is, right? Node is all about like, hey, we have this community of packages, and
Yeah.
you construct things out of them in the way that you want. Where this is like, no, we're doing the Ruby on Rails thing. It's like one thing to rule them all. And I don't know, kind of curious. What would be your take on that? Would you like that? Is that good?
Well, I'm curious because for a lot of those pieces of the Rails puzzle, you need some sort of partner usually. Like if you're going to do auth, usually you don't, like there's some infrastructure behind that. If you're doing blob uploads, there's some infrastructure, unless there's some integration layers or some binding layer. So
so they've got, I guess, the core kind of session auth flow stuff, and then they've got bespoke adapter libraries that go to like Clerk. I don't know, maybe Clerk. There was a couple of them, and then general OAuth. And same thing with database stuff. They have it for Postgres, SQLite, and I think another one. And the same thing for asset management. You can do it in memory. You can do it to a file system. You can do it to S3 or any S3 compatible system. So yeah, they've done that.
So it's not
one entry.
Yeah, so it's not like Remix is trying to be the entire MERN stack or the LAMP stack. It's Remix, and then you choose your database, you choose your auth system to connect to.
Yeah, but they're also like a Drizzle now too. Like they're replacing Drizzle in that.
Okay.
Like Drizzle is built into, not really Drizzle. Their own version of Drizzle is based inside of Remix, and then it's just the shim layer that you bring in for Postgres or SQLite or whatever. And I think it's even their bespoke shim layer. Like it's not, maybe that sits on top of the other Postgres. I don't know. Probably, yeah.
So in general, I tend to be a bigger fan of just the, like, you pick and choose your best tools rather than one tool to rule them all, just because it tends to give you more flexibility over time. Because take React, for example. When I first started doing React back in the day, you would use Redux and you would use Jest. You would use, there's different tools have come out to replace different layers of the React stack. And you can plausibly switch to use them, especially for new projects, or you can migrate, and there's less hard coupling between those different things. Different people use different testing infrastructure, different CSS approaches, and it's the classic programmer's discussion of, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because some people don't like that when you start a new React project, you have to decide what you're going to do for CSS. You have to decide what you're going to do for testing. You have to just make all these decisions. But usually what I found is for power users that are familiar with these tools, that flexibility is a good thing, because it lets you, for each project, choose what works best for you. But the flip side is some people Angular takes more of this like all-in-one type approach, where Angular's taking some decisions away from you. And some people tend to like that sort of thing. And yeah, I guess we'll see.
Paige,
yeah, I'm torn, because I can see the benefits of it, especially if we're going towards a future where we don't necessarily care so much about the underlying implementation of the tools, as long as it's doing what we expect it to do. Where it's just,
that's interesting too.
Point your agent towards it and be like, okay, this is the way that they do it. Here's the documentation for how you should set it up. Go forth and make it happen. So I think that there's almost going to be a dichotomy between the people who are power users and who like to choose everything themselves, and the people who are just like, I need to stand up a new project and I'm going to choose this because it has everything, or it has really good documentation and its batteries included for the most part. And I'll use, Supabase as my database, and I'll use Clerk as my auth, and there are connectors for that, so it's pretty easy. I think it could be popular. I think it just depends on how well they can differentiate themselves and show the value of locking yourself into the way that they want to do it. And that's kind of always the thing that's happened. It's like even Next.js took an approach that became an impossibility basically to back out of once you had kind of locked in.
Yeah.
Angular's done the same thing. So it really just depends on how bespoke and flexible you want to make your application versus how this is the way that we do it and it works for us and we're fine with it, and that's what we care about.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I love the idea of a all-in-one. I think that is cool. Like, if you just want to, like, I loved Ruby on Rails back in the day. I thought it was fantastic, active record and all that. And it was interesting because I think Ruby on Rails did this thing where it worked for them because they were doing consulting anyway, and it was basically them just productizing their framework for consulting.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, they're now 5 people on this project, according to Claude's review of the GitHub flow of all this. So it's more than just the 2 Ryans. So yay. But I gotta say, if you've got big things like ORM, and testing and all that sort of stuff, I want at least one person whose full-time job it is to do just that. I mean, like Drizzle has a whole project with like lots of people on it. All the unit testing frameworks. They're all like, they've got people on them, people maintaining it and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to be in the situation where it's like, hey, a multi-way join doesn't work or whatever, blah, 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 and have them be like, oh, wait, hold on. Oh, man, getting back in the database again. Anybody handled that recently? I don't know. And then, like, it takes a month to get it resolved or whatever. It's like, okay. Yeah.
That's actually a really good point, is that there are entire companies and teams built around a single piece of this, and they're trying to do the entire thing with the 5 of them now.
Yeah.
Good point.
I wonder if there's a Shopify angle behind this, because I'm just looking at their website. It's still branded at the bottom as under Shopify's umbrella. So I wonder if there's some Shopify use case behind this, like they see some need they're seeing. But I guess we'll see. It's still a beta, so it's cool to see they're making progress with it, because these are smart guys, and I think just having more frameworks out there that are doing interesting new things is always a good thing. So we'll keep tabs on it and see where they go with this.
Yeah,
and I think Shopify's angle is going to be like anybody else, which is if you guys if this actually does work, and you guys end up like building something that a lot of people can use and trust as like a one size fits all, then that can reduce our token spend when we give people agentic builders, because they don't, we can give them one context for Remix v3, and it can go and build whatever on top of it, which is cool. We'll see. They have a lot of money to throw around.
Yeah, that always helps.
Yeah. And tokens, which clearly is helping in this case. I mean, this whole thing just is absolutely covered in AI. That's the only reason that this project even exists is agentic coding.
Cool. All right. Well, my news of the week is on a tool we talk about sometimes on this show, but it's been a while, and that is pnpm. And the pnpm project has a version 11 release I want to talk about. And there's some smaller things in here. They drop support for older Node. pnpm is now distributed as pure ESM. They have a new SQLite backend for faster installs. But the thing I wanted to discuss on here is they've made some changes to their security defaults that I thought is very interesting, given the discussions we've had on the show about NPM packages being corrupted and malware being put into them and whatnot. And pnpm has made some changes specifically to address that. So as part of this new version, they have this minimum release age flag, and it defaults to 1 day, meaning basically by default, pnpm doesn't allow you to install any package that hasn't been out there, any new version that hasn't been out there for at least 1 full day, which I think is probably a good idea, because 99% of JavaScript developers have no need to get a package within the day it was released. I think the only people who do are people that work on some of these bigger libraries that need to be installing new stuff and testing it. But for most of us, we can wait a day just in case something malicious does get put out there. Let it cook a little bit before our CIs and our processes auto pick up on them.
Right.
They also have a change to block. The variable is block exotic subdependencies, which
that's a great name.
I love it.
It's a great name,
Exotic.
And what it does is, how for packages, most of us just point to to packages that are on the npm registry. So
Yeah.
you need to install React, you npm install React. Well, you can install dependencies from just straight up URLs, GitHub repositories. Sometimes people do this for if you have some sort of local package manager within a company or organization, you do something like
or if
that.
you're working off like a beta that hasn't been released yet. Yeah.
Or a beta. You can even just do direct tarball URLs. That's something you can do in package.json files. And basically, those are the dependencies that they deem exotic because they're not just pointing at a standard registry. And so basically what this flag does, and this defaults to true with the new version, is that only your directly declared dependencies are able to do that. So like, if in your package.json you have one of these and you type it out, pnpm will be like, great. But if, say, a dependency of a dependency, like let's say you have Moment.js installed and suddenly Moment.js depends on some random tarball, pnpm is going to say, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that's something you should probably want, or at the very least, you should review
Probably
that and have to override it to have to bring it in.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then,
100%.
Yep. And then the third on this list is that they've changed how they handle basically install scripts. So install scripts was the problem behind the most recent compromise of help me out here, the fetch tool Axios.
Yes, right.
So Axios used basically the package was compromised, and the compromised package that was pushed out used a post-install script to basically inject its payload. So pnpm has actually already, it just for previous versions, blocked those by default, which is good, and something I actually didn't know that they do, but that is very good. You have to override on individual packages if you want to allow those scripts to run. But on this version, they've switched it so that scripts that are packages that have these scripts, when you try to install them, the install will actually fail and force you to either allow or block those scripts from happening. So you have to take an action one way or another.
Or try ignore. Awesome.
Yeah. And I learned more about this because I actually finally switched over to use pnpm. I've been meaning to do it for
the bomb. Love pnpm.
I should have done this a year or two ago, but today is better than not doing it at all. So I switched over, and I did discover, so it blocked some of the packages I was using do use post-install scripts for legit reasons, like Cypress uses one for example.
Oh yeah, for setting up like a headless browser. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there's some legit use cases, but basically it flagged. I had 3 of them in all of my dependencies. And so what I did is I just looked around and say, are these all legit? I trusted Cypress, and then I looked up the other 2, and I had to whitelist them in my package JSON file. But it was really no big deal, and I will sleep a little bit easier at night now, knowing that just with some of these things in place, it just helps defend against some pretty common attack vectors that we're seeing a lot more of in the last year or so.
I mean, these all seem like very sensible choices that pnpm is making for users. Sensible defaults that protect us in ways that we can, and it doesn't sound like any of them are things that we can't get around if we need to at the same time. If you know what you're doing, if you're certain of this package or this version or whatever, it sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's a way to do like a playwright and whatever headless browser install that's not on the post install script. That's like, just run this npx command and it'll do all the setup and all that. And you could just turn that into like a bash script inside of like a local scripts directory that would like do the setup after you've cloned, and now at least you know that you're doing that.
It can just spit out a warning and just say like, hey, you need to run this npx whatever, need to have this installed on the system in order for this to work, and you just have to take care of it outside of this, just because the reality we're living in is that npm is not really a trusted place anymore.
It never was, but it's gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, certainly not. More so now than TanStack also had an issue recently. So this is a sort of PSA for folks. Don't go to just like the regular TanStack npm package currently, because for a while there it was installing malware. and it was grabbing your env and exfiltrating your env stuff. And it was literally just some guy camping on top of the Tanstack brand and trying to extort Tanstack literally for money to get the name back and all that. It's an absolute mess.
I'm just looking because I was curious what's actually there. Some sort of video player? Like
it looks ish like it may be ish a thing ish, but it's not actually real, and it is malware.
Gotcha. They probably had just like AI say, make a realistic looking JS package to put out there just to try to trick people into getting it. All right. Well, why don't we instead talk about some lightning news? Again, we got at least one quick thing.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right, so I wore my Firefox hoodie today because I wanted to talk about some Firefox news.
Yeah.
The best podcast for keeping track on what Firefox is working on.
Always.
They do seem to be really active, though, lately. Like, there's just, the Firefox team is working on a bunch of different stuff. So they have an experimental new feature that lets you, what they call tab notes. Basically, the idea is that each tab gets this little notes icon on the tab itself. And you can click it and just leave notes. I mean, that's really all there is to this feature. But the notes are associated with each URL. So if you wanted to note something about like a URL you go to often and you want to store something about it, it just gives you a really quick and convenient way to write something down.
Is it persisted?
Yeah, it's persisted. And it's persisted. So let's see. It's indicated by a sticky note icon and visible when hovering over tabs. Tab notes remain connected to the page's URL until you delete them. Your notes are yours. They remain private and accessible only to you. Firefox stores them locally in your browser and doesn't send them to Mozilla. So just really, really lightweight. But I think it's a cool little idea because I could totally see myself using this from time to time.
Yeah.
I want this in regards to my like agents. I want to put like a note on my agent saying this guy was doing this, like, and then when he stalls out, I can go back into it and be like, oh, right, and it would keep you from that context switch 25 minutes.
Interesting.
Trying to figure out what this agent was doing.
Let me ask you a question about that, actually, because with Claude Code, I've got the / command rename, which I've started using a lot for sessions that I need to come back to in the future. Like I'm working on a bug fix and I'm waiting for somebody else to give me some info. So I'll do a / rename and name it to something that I know I can find later when I'm looking through my session list. Is there a way to do that in VS Code? Because I'll open up chats and ask it to do something, and then I can never find that chat again for the life of me. Like to continue the conversation if I switch to some other branch and do something and then need to come back later.
I do not know that.
Auto name them like from the initial prompt.
I thought so, but I have looked at sessions within the VS Code chat and I cannot figure out what it's doing or how it's figuring out. Like I see all of my Claude sessions and I can see the chats that I had with Claude Code in my CLI in VS Code, but I cannot figure out where the GitHub or the Chat GPT chats that I just have within VS Code go, and I can't find them again ever.
I did not know / rename existed in Claude Code, and I'm totally going to start using that because I do that from time to time where I just have to, and I use -- resume. I think it's Claude -- resume where it prompts you with a list of previous sessions, but sometimes it's not always obvious because by default it tries to guess what you were talking about, which isn't always super accurate.
Right. Yes, so / rename and also / resume if you've already started Claude and you just want to look through your sessions and like pick a certain one.
I didn't know that existed either.
There are some new apps that are coming around, and the idea is that you have like multiple panes, like one per agent, and then it'll give you like a status indicator, like, okay, this guy's stuck, this guy's working, blah 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 blah. And it's called fleet management. And the whole genre of this area is called like fleet management. And, you know, I'll be excited to see what new features get added there, because what I'm looking for is exactly what you're talking about, the ability to like name the agent and what it's doing and be able to put notes and associate it with it. And then, kind of at a higher level, have maybe an orchestrator that can understand, hey, this agent is looking at this sort of thing
Hmm.
and he got this far into it, but, he needs some help,
So
human in the loop kind
So
of deal.
the Warp terminal kind of has that now. If you download the latest version of it, which is what I use to run Claude CLI all the time, now it's got like a tab side that shows you how many terminals you have open, and you can see, and it's showing you like what Claude is doing. It'll show you like a little time thing so you can see that Claude's thinking about something or it's
Hmm.
working, or right now I can see that one of them is telling me that Claude wants to run a bash script, but it needs me to go and like approve it. So yeah, they're working on it. You might try Warp if you're interested in that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have tried Warp on and off, and yeah, I need to
They
probably
keep
take
pushing
another
new
look.
features, so keep updating.
Yeah, like every week, you start on Monday with one understanding of agentic coding, and by Friday it's like, oops, okay, we're on a new understanding of the world.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've gotten into the habit of just npm installing Claude Code once or twice a week just to get whatever the latest changes are, because it seems like it's a daily occurrence that they've got a couple new versions they pushed out.
Just don't do that for OpenClaw.
Right. No.
Maybe avoid that one.
No. Anthropic I trust, OpenClaw I do not.
All right. Well, do we want to discuss what's making us happy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack, what's making you happy this week?
The trailer for Ted Lasso season 4, I guess,
Yay.
is making me very happy. It was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed, like in my life. It was just some more, just good, nice, heartwarming Ted Lasso. Like, it's funny because Apple's usually been so good about shows, and Ted Lasso is clearly amazing. But the last couple like seasons, at least, of some of my favorite Apple shows have been hard to watch. Like Monarch has gotten just like, I don't even know. Like, it's supposed to be like Godzilla. Rarely ever see Godzilla. And then what was the other one? For All Mankind has got like the last 2 seasons have all been like a workers dispute thing. It's like, what was it? This is a show about like rockets and space travel and stuff, and they don't do any of that anymore. It's just like walking around corridors doing politics, and you're like, what is going on? So yeah, the new season of Ted Lasso I can't wait to see it, honestly.
Yeah. I haven't watched the latest seasons of Monarch or of For All Mankind, so I will try and keep an open mind when I do eventually watch them.
I'm just trying to get through For All Mankind. Oh my god, it's brutal.
I thought it had ended, honestly. I thought it was done.
It always does, and then they take like 2 years to come up with a new version and another season, and I don't even understand why. Like, you look at the production value on this thing, and I swear to God, it's literally just people in corridors, people in offices, and you're like, how does this take 2 years to write / produce this stuff? Like, there's maybe 3 effect shots. Like, what is going on? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just debating whether to renew my Apple TV subscription because I turned it off when Formula One took a break, and I'm debating now whether to go back. And I probably will. Formula One's starting back up this weekend.
Yeah, it's probably final practice today for Miami, and then I guess tomorrow would be the qualifying.
So I'll probably turn it back on, and then if I do, I'll probably check back in on Apple TV shows.
It's still one of the cheaper ones, I think, right?
Yeah, it's like $10 a month, I think, for Apple TV. So
yeah,
it's not too bad. Paige, what's making you happy this week?
I'm going to continue on the Claude train and say that some new Claude skills, new to me anyway, called Claude superpowers, are what's making me happy this week. So they're a set of skills that you can install for Claude. And one of my coworkers at work shared it in the channel, like the dev channel, of like he'd been getting a lot of use out of them. And really, it's like Claude the way that you probably want Claude to develop, where you give Claude a Jira ticket or a Notion ticket or whatever, and then Claude asks a bunch of questions about the ticket to clarify things, and then it writes this extremely detailed plan, and then it uses the plan to write like an implementation doc, and then it uses that doc to use sub-agents to like fire off all these different pieces of the plan step by step. It's making Git commits, it's testing with, it's writing tests, it's failing tests, it's writing implementation stuff and logic, it's running the tests again. It's doing TDD basically. But it's like all the way from I have a really general idea to I actually have working code. Please go and test this and smoke test it and make sure it looks and acts the way that you expect it to. And I've done this now for maybe 2 or 3 different features that were bigger features, not just really simple things. And boy, it has cut back on the amount of back and forth that I have to have, or the amount of extra context that I have to add to get Claude to something that I consider decent code, amazingly. So I am very impressed with it. It is probably chewing through just tons of tokens. I have no idea how many tokens this thing is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's just nom in those tokens.
It is. But it's sub-agents that are nomming the tokens, so I don't lose the context in my original thread, which is also great. So yeah,
does it use like different agent types? Does it use like Haiku like for the sub-agent as opposed to using Opus or something? I
am not sure which ones it's using for sub-agents, but it asks me once the plan has been approved, the spec doc has been written, like all the details have been ironed out. Do you want me to do this in the main thread, or do you want me to use sub-agents? And then it just, every piece of the plan, every step, another sub-agent is sent off to go and do it. So it might be using a cheaper one. I'm not sure, but I've been really impressed with the results. And I would encourage you, if you have an unlimited plan or you have a corporate account, try these out. They're pretty impressive. Yeah, superpowers, pretty super.
We've started creating Claude skills for reusable stuff, and I at first I thought like, this is really going to actually save us any time. And it's funny because like even just stupid little things like, we have one that just scaffolds out a new blog post because our CMS is all just markdown docs and some configuration files. And then just basically we have a way where you can just say new blog post as a skill, give it the title of it. And just it does things that used to be tricky to automate. It'll create a slug from the title. It'll scaffold out a folder. It'll put like a starting image in the folder. We've had it just do a couple of little things. I mean, this is just stuff that probably would have taken, it's like 3 or 4 minutes of manual work, but it's just fun to see different ways of automating, because there are things that if this were a JavaScript script, it would be almost impossible, because you're asking it to do some things that are almost like creative and non-deterministic in it, but it's still automation, and it's weird to warp your brain around. But we've been finding it useful, though. We've just been experimenting with it more.
All right, I had a look, and it looks like for sub-agents, it actually does change models based on what it's trying to do.
Okay.
So for exploring the code base and coding, it's going to use Haiku. And then for any kind of like general purpose stuff, it just inherits whatever you're currently using from the main thread. So probably Opus, I'm guessing. Although you can set an environment variable Claude _code _subagent _model and set that to whatever you want. So my guess is but I think that's actually the future page, is like to have this, you have Opus go and like plan out whatever it is, and then when it's got the plan, then you give it over to Haiku, because you're not paying that 27x multiplier for Haiku. You're paying a smaller multiplier.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the end results have been dramatically better and made me feel better as I'm looking through the PR or the code review about the stuff that still has to change at the very end, which of course I always do a human review at the end before I open the PR and let other people look at it. But yeah, I feel a lot better about the results without so much manual intervention.
Also, Haiku's a lot faster. It's kind of like
Yes.
an underrated thing. Like, it is genuinely a lot faster at writing code.
Yeah, and just the multitasking ability of it too saves you time, because if one thing's writing the tests and one thing's writing the code and one thing's writing the docs, then in theory it should finish faster.
In theory.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it kind of reinforces what we've been saying or what we've been learning recently, which is that if you take the time to plan ahead before it ever goes and implements any code, the results are much better. And I'm finding that, like, we go through some really interesting questions as it kind of tries to clarify what exactly it wants. So for instance, one implementation that I had to do, it was changing the nav bar to have different links in the actual main nav and then hide some more links under the user. It gave me it coded up like actual versions of the nav bar for me to go and look at in HTML in the browser, and then asked me to select which version I liked the best, and that made it into the implementation plan. But it had like 3 different ones. One had like a little button outline, one had a little emoji icon, one had some other drop downs, and like it was like, which of these 3 versions do you think is the closest to what you're looking for? I mean, that was wow.
Okay, that's awesome.
Wasn't expecting
I'm in.
that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that.
Oh, very cool. All right. What is making me happy this week is Duolingo, the app, the language learning app. So I've gotten a kick recently to get back to learning Japanese, which is something that I took 4 semesters of it in college. And so I got enough to know, a decent amount of vocabulary and such. But college for me was, 19 years ago at this point. So a lot of that knowledge is gone now. And Duolingo is, I used it before many years ago, and it's gotten very, very good. Like it's kind of shockingly good. It's somewhat gamified, but in a really fun way. It works really well in the app and also on desktop as well. I've been pleasantly surprised because I can do stuff on my phone on the go, or then I can just sit down like I'm doing here and I can open it up in the browser. And it works really well there as well. But it did make me almost basically laugh out loud last night, because Duolingo is famously very streak oriented, that they want you to do it every day. They want you to keep a streak going. Well, it had gotten to like 10 o'clock and I had not done my Duolingo for the day. And what they have is a live activity on iOS. So live activity is where something can be on like your home screen, your lock screen. And up pops the little Duolingo bird character with a countdown that says like 2 hours left, and the bird's looking at its watch, like popping right up.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Let's
popping,
go. Let's do that.
Right up on the lock screen. And
awesome.
You know what? It got me to do it that last night. So, it was just so amusing. It was just really cute. And I haven't given them any money either. That's the other thing. It's, you get a certain amount of usage every day. And then of course they try to prompt you to get you to pay. And I probably will, just because I'm at this point, like I'm getting a lot of value out of them. So I want to give back, but they make it really easy to just try it without having to commit to anything, which is I think it's really smart and really user-friendly too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how long is the Duolingo session? How long does it want you to, 15 minutes, 30 minutes?
It's very short.
Yeah, it's like 2-3 minutes.
What?
Depending on, their sessions are really bite-sized, and that's part of their appeal, is that which, prompts the question of how useful is it? Because I've done Duolingo recently. I had like a 1+ year streak that I finally just gave up on, because why?
Yeah.
But it's very easy to achieve that daily goal of just a really quick 4 or 5 minute session. And then, the hope is that you'll keep going and you'll upgrade to the paid subscription, and then you'll have unlimited time if you're really into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is going to make me fluent in Japanese or anything, but it's helped because if nothing else, it revives knowledge that I already had, because I like just being casually familiar with the language has a lot of benefits, even if there's no way I'm ever going to be a fluent speaker anytime. in my life, but just recognizing words, being able to recognize things on signs, things like that I think are cool. And I still watch a lot of anime and Japanese type of art and video games and that sort of stuff. So knowing a bit of the language is helpful for that too.
For sure.
And all right, I think that is our episode. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you are interested in talking more with us, we have a link to our Discord in the show notes. We hang out there. We talk about front-end news and whatnot. We are on all the socials as well. Those links are all in the show notes as well. And yeah, I think that is our episode. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yep.
See you next week.